So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains, and welcome to Further Love of Paul McGrath podcast. And I just wanted to come back again because I'm really loving this off season so far. I love every off season, but what I'm liking about this off season is that we're being linked to players that show that the club, if these links are true, obviously, show that the club are doing judicious scouting and scouting from the point of view of trying to find players that have massive upside and bring them into the club, but also it's beginning to show me that we're favouring players with physical traits and the ability to learn, very much so. Now, why do I speak about this? Obviously, this podcast is about Archie Brown, and I'll be honest, I didn't know a whole pile about Archie Brown prior to 2.5 days ago when we were linked with him, and I went and I watched, and it's the beauty of having scouting software where you can watch essentially every single one of his defensive duels, every one of his attacking progressions and all that, and watch full games. And, you know, having access to that is a godsend. And I sat down and I watched 4 games of his. One was a 4-1 win against Standard Liège. He only played 23 minutes in that game, but I wanted to see what he was like coming off the bench. What he was like in a short period, should I say, in that game. I watched 2 games that they played against Maccabi Haifa in the Conference League. And one of those they lost and one of those they drew. And then I watched a game where they played San Galwis, or however you pronounce it as well. So I wanted to get a good cross-section. I wanted to watch that last team, Union San, however you pronounce it, because of their ties to Brighton as well. And potentially the fact that, you know, the way that they play football is similar to the way Brighton play it within the English game. But one of the big things that I came away with was Archie Brown showed a level of maturity. And when I say that, I want to preface this, he is raw in some areas, but the level of maturity that he showed and the level, what it looked like he was sent out in the field with jobs to do that favoured his ability, and he was able to do them to a T, and it looked like he was willing to learn the other aspects of the game where he had to focus on. And I labelled that as maturity. For somebody who only turned 22 yesterday, which is the 28th of May, I labelled that as maturity. Also, you put into the blender with regards to that he left Derby County in 2021 as a 18/19-year-old, and he went to play with Luzerne. And it's testament, I think, to his ability to be able to back himself. I think in that instance that he went and he played. He went to a completely different country. I don't know whether he speaks French. Maybe he does now, but he went to a completely different country and he was willing to learn, and he backed himself not to maybe stick within the pyramid system of English football and maybe get lost. Maybe he plays League One football with Derby County and he never gets the run that he needs. Maybe he ends up being transferred goes out on loan to a League Two team, has a bad loan spell and things don't go right for him. He takes the control of his career into his own hands by leaving Derby County and goes to Switzerland and learns. And, you know, when obviously when he played with Luzerne, they're not a terrible team there, obviously, but he gained a level of growth. He had to grow up quickly, and you can see that in his game. You can see he's not perfect. He's got areas that he needs to work on. But you can see that he had to go up quickly. And then he gets this move. He gets a move then in 2023-24 to Gent as well. So this is all a guy that has come from Birmingham as well. He, by the way, his ties to Aston Villa are not noted. I don't know whether he's a Blues fan, whether he's a Baggies fan, whether he's a Villa fan, but he is born in Birmingham. And it's just interesting that he had that level of maturity to be able to back himself at 18, 19, go abroad and he's reaping the rewards of it now. He's been linked with Chelsea, West Ham, Aston Villa, Celtic were also interested in him as well. Fees mooted for this guy are anywhere in and around the 15 to 17 million mark, depending on where you watch. And I think a lot of teams are really interested in him because of, number one, his versatility, his power, his pace, his height are really interesting. But also he's got a technical ability on the ball that is far above his years as a 22-year-old. And I would wager to say, without having seen him play for Derby County under-18s or under-23s, that it's going abroad has allowed him to be able to get to work and hone in that technical ability. We'll speak about that more in a moment. But the reason that I'm bringing up about this guy and the fact that he's got maturity, he seems to show maturity beyond these years, is that Aston Villa are beginning to foster a kind of a culture with regards to, or not a culture, an identity with regards to who they're targeting. Younger, athletically, and physically strong and developed players who seem to have a propensity, number two, learn. I think the biggest proponent of that is in the back end of the season, the emergence of Morgan Rogers. We just have to look and see the difference in that player from his cameo appearance that he had when he came out against Sheffield United, albeit really good, should have scored a goal. But at the end of the year, his carrying ability, we missed that. He learned so much and he developed so much, but he was a big, strong guy, big presence, had really powerful running style, and was quick over the first 10, 15 yards. Good physical traits. You also look into the January transfer market when we signed Kostan Nedeljkovic. Once again, not going to sit here and pretend I know him absolutely inside out. But what I do know is he's a big, strong boy who's really quick, really athletic, and learns the game and has learned the game at a young age. And what I mean by that has learned how to be a professional at a young age and defend diligently and do the dirty work and take instruction. And that's a really interesting piece. That's a really interesting thing to have to have kind of a pattern to kind of form. You'd think that every single club would want that, but maybe that's not the case. Now, we go so far as to say is that is not the case in a lot of clubs. A lot of clubs will take chances, and Villa will take chances on Mavericks as well. They will take chances on naturally gifted players who just do their own thing. I think Unai Emery is comfortable with that. But the backbone of your team, if you want to create a no excuses culture, you can't have a couple of dickheads in the corner that are poisoning the water for everybody. And that cultural element, that character element that is an intangible, is something that the club seems to be doing an awful lot of donkey work on. And look, this guy may not come true. We may not sign this guy at all. And if the links may not even be true. But if they are, and this is somebody we're looking at, I can see these traits in this guy when I would look at him on the field. And that's really interesting. Didn't expect myself to go into that kind of a rant or that kind of a in-depth conversation piece on character and intangibles, I suppose, so quickly in this. That was going to be my ending piece. But hey, we've said it now. So let's take a little look at Archie Brown, because I think that's what you guys may have come to see. So I want to share up this Archie Brown. Watching him in games, he ticks an awful lot of boxes that are really exciting. Number one, as I say, he's a big boy. He's a big boy. He's 6'3", but he's a slighter frame. I think he could probably. I'd have no problem with him bulking up to half a stone to a stone. I think he's got the frame to hang that weight on. I don't think that there's any doubt with regards to that. I mentioned before he's extremely athletic. I've also mentioned before that he knows he's athletic and he plays to his strengths with regards to utilizing that athleticism. I love to see that, because you often see big guys that don't know they're big. And while this guy is a big guy, he's on the slighter side, but he's able to use his body. Now, does he get pushed off the ball a small bit? Rarely, but I saw it happen. I saw people kind of shrug him off at times. It's a given. He's just gone 22 years of age. He's a lot of filling out to do. Not a concern. In the main, he can utilize his body. And that's a big, big piece for me. Looking at his heat map there, we can see he's very much left side dominant, as you would imagine, playing as a left back. But he goes very far up that left back, that left side. And, with regards to, I suppose, kind of understanding what I saw with him, I wanted to kind of look as well into how Gent played, because I think it's very important. We talk about players and you do scouting series on them, and Gent might play a completely different style of football to Aston Villa. You're kind of wondering how players are going to fit in, and it's projection based and stuff like that. And that's cool too. And there will always be an element of that. But with regards to Gent, I think that they were a very attacking team, which suited his natural ability. They were very direct, so they could get that ball forward when they needed to, or they had to get that ball forward. And I don't mean lump it forward. They were a team that carried the ball forward. Anybody who's been listening to me recently will understand. I think that Unai Emery wants us to carry this ball a small bit more in different areas so that we can go wide or we can go through the middle. And I think that that's important to be able to beat a low block. Sometimes the best way to do it is to be able to carry that ball forward or just beat one man or break that 5-yard buffer zone that a low block or a mid block gives you. Being able to carry the ball in different areas of the field is very beneficial. This guy can carry the ball. Really, really good at it. Really good at it. Gent also wanted to play a high pressing style as well. Archie Brown was very good at it. He pressed really high. You can just see his heat map here. He was able to press in and around the attacking third. It wasn't really so much diving into tackles or making tackles up there, but he was getting in and around the place. He was forcing players down alleys, forcing players to come inside where they were getting tidied up by other high pressing midfielders as well within that Gent team. And I think that's really interesting to look at and really interesting to see because, the statistics, as I've always said before, with defensive statistics, it's guts or glory. It's all in or all out with regards to defensive statistics. And what I mean by that is you might have a low tackle percentage, you might have a low number of tackles, but you may not need to tackle every time. The guts and glory, the Terry Butcher style defenders have always gone to ground and tackling. That's not exactly a positive at any given time. And specifically for a fullback, I want my fullbacks to move players, manipulate players into areas. I want them to be able to tackle dribblers to a decent degree. I want them to be able to block. I want them to be able to intercept. I want them to be able to cut out passing lanes. I want them to be able to block passes, to create quick attacks from the wings because, I don't want them to be diving into tackles because I don't want any of my defenders to have to dive into tackles because that means that you're one man down because they're on the ground. So once again, I preface that and I preface the defensive statistics here as well. Now, Gent finished 5th in the league in the Belgian Pro League last season in 2022-2023, and I'll be honest with you. Sometimes it's difficult to kind of ascertain some of the continental leagues with regards to where teams finish because they've got playoff pieces and everything like that. But this season, they finished in the regular season. They finished in 7th place, which put them into the qualification piece for basically the European playoffs. And from that, they finished top of that qualification Euro playoff group with 8 wins and 2 losses within that little mini tournament that they played. And then during that period of time, they scored 27 goals, only conceding 10. They had a plus 17 goal difference. They really kicked into high gear with regards to that. And they qualified for Europe this season due to that. So really, really strong finish to the season. They had this season just gone. And the reason that I bring that up is because a lot of that was their scoring prowess. They were able to score goals late in the year. Things were clicking. And this guy was really, really good at carrying that ball forward and being able to get them into positions to score. He had 3 assists on the season. He wasn't the real assist maker. But what he was he was able to create shot-creating actions, goal-creating actions. He was able to create opportunities for people. He was able to progress that ball forward. He was able to be a nuisance and overlap on that left-hand side. His biggest, one of his biggest plus points, I think, is his ability to be able to overlap his speed, his dribbling ability, his crossing ability. So his attacking threat from that left back position is huge. At 6'3", some of the pace that this guy can run at is frightening. Like, he's an all-around athlete, and it's brilliant to be able to see that because Aston Villa are on the smaller side, and I'm not suggesting that we go all to the hulkish side of things, albeit that power and pace and height are absolute massive must-haves within any team. It's interesting to see the link to this player as well. He's a solid defender. Like, I'm not going to say that he's Paolo Maldini out there. He's not. He's a solid defender. He knows when not to jump into tackles. He's a very learned defender. He's been taught how to defend. That's what I mean. You can see this. He's a big guy. He gets his body in the way. His blocks, the amount of blocks that he puts in games is huge as well. The interceptions that he puts in. So he concentrates in those areas where he's really good. And to give you an example, like, he's in the top 8% of defenders, of fullbacks for blocks within Europe as well. And that's not just shot blocked where he comes in the top 17%. It's also passes blocked where he comes in the top 11% as well. So he gets his body in the way. He doesn't dive into situations, and he makes things really difficult because he presses so well in all areas of the field, specifically the mid and the attacking third as well. So really, really interesting guy from a defensive point of view. Aerial duel rate, obviously, a lot of balls that come down on a fullback would be diagonal balls. Sometimes they're easy to lose. It's easier to lose a diagonal ball than it is to lose a ball straight down on you when you're a centre half. He still won 54.8% of his aerial duels. 6'3", no problem with that. Potentially that might be something to do with his slighter type of frame. Putting on a bit of bulk there, being able to stand firmer and stouter underneath the ball. Potentially that helps, but not worried about that in the slightest, to be honest with you. I really am not worried about that. Where this guy really comes into his own, and then this is the issue with my own hand-picked radial graph piece here. I wanted to get generic enough kind of statistics whereby I can do apples to apples with the majority of players. And what I don't have here is the progression rates of players, carries, progressive passes, dribbling statistics and stuff like that. And maybe I should start to integrate those more into my radial graphs. But I want to talk about them and into my statistic sheets there on the side, because the reason that I keep them similar from person one to however many people at the end based on their position is so you can do apples to apples kind of conversations with regards to these. But with regards to this guy's dribbling ability, it's brilliant. He is one of the best dribblers of the ball, and one of the best carriers of the ball from the fullback position in Europe. Statistically, it's really good, and it's really positive to see. He carries. He's a carry the ball first guy. He's a get the head down, go forward guy. His total carrying distance per game comes in at 336 meters per game, which is huge. That's a lot of carries to come from that fullback position. And I think, as I said before, Unai Emery wants this. The progressive carrying distance is 152 meters per game as well, which is brilliant. Puts him up in the top 4% of fullbacks in Europe. He's 4.62 progressive carries per game. None of this is on the stats sheet here. I'm reading it from some of the statistic websites that I use. His carries into the final third put him in the top percentile in Europe, along with his progressive carries, along with his carries into the penalty area, which is something that drives me bonkers that we don't do this from the right-hand side. It's something that really drives me mad about Matty Cash, is he does not carry into the penalty area. This guy has done it at the top elite level within Europe for a fullback. And that's a massive asset to be able to have, specifically from the fullback position, because we're talking about overlaps. And look, Luca Dean, brilliant season last year. Alex Moreno, brilliant season the season before. But what they did is they were diametrically opposed to each other in the way that they went forward with the ball. One was a get up there, wait for the ball to come to you and deliver. The other one, when Alex Moreno, was carry the ball forward, bring it to the end line, and have that ability to be able to get that low across the box or drive towards the penalty area. With this guy, once again, completely understand the fact that it's in a lesser league than the Premier League. And we've had a lot of good Belgian players, the players that played in Belgium, that have come to the Premier League, that have not lit the place on fire. But this guy, even when you look at his crossing ability, comes in the top 17% in Europe, 4.66 crosses per 90 minutes. It's not a million miles away from Luca Dean. So if he's able to cross at the same ability, same rate, but he's also able to carry into the box at the same rate or better rate than Alex Moreno was, does that not mean that you just pair these two guys together, Moreno and Luca Dean, and you hope that the athletic traits and that the learned ability from him and how to play the game of football would morph together and be that player within the Premier League? No, it won't be that player out of the gate straight away. But Jesus, I'd be willing to take a chance on that from that point of view. And there are other areas that he needs to improve on. Control isn't the best. At times he's a bit, I'm not going to say sloppy in position, but miscontrolling the ball. Once again, big guy, 6'3", still learning the game. It does get dispossessed quite a lot. His successful dribbles there, 42.1%. Dribbles an awful lot. Under half of those are successful. If you'd want to see that get up there a small bit towards the 50% mark, also naturally by that, his dispossession rate will come down as well, if that was the case, because a lot of the times he gets dispossessed is not in possession, not passing the ball. It is due to the fact that he gets dispossessed in possession when he's running with the ball. With regards to his passing as well, it's an interesting one. He's a really good long passer of the ball, but he's not the best medium range passer of the ball. Like, he attempts about 15.63%, 15.63 passes per 90. He attempts 20 passes per 90 in that medium range, and that's between 15 and 30 yards. He's not really good at that, so that's something that he will have to learn. His short passing distance between 5 and 15 yards as well. Pass completion there, not really great. It's under 80%. That's where he lacks a small little bit. Once again, probably being in a more ball dominant team like Aston Villa, we've seen players in Unai Emery's team who've come in and have learned and adapted towards that ball dominance, I suppose, and that ball manipulation that we do in those short triangles. I don't think at 22 years of age that he can't learn this, but I do think it's an area where he will have to learn, and I'm confident that he can. And look, at the end of the day, with his physical traits and learning from somebody like Unai Emery, I'm sure that this will become a moot point. But it is just something that I want to bring up as well. His passing, specifically from the short and intermediate areas, would need a small little bit of work. Now, he's long passing as well, and long passing is anything longer than 30 yards. He plays about 8 of those per game. 50% of those go on target. Happy enough with that. So if we need to go along with him in a more direct style, absolutely we can do that. Or the crossfield balls, because he does like to cross the ball, as I say, and that's definitely something that we want to see him do, and that's something that he can do, and you can see it on film as well. So a really interesting player. Will we sign him? I don't know. Is he the finished article? No, he's not. But we're looking at traits and we're looking at reasons that Unai Emery may want to sign these players, or what might be drawing them to him. And if this is any scintilla of truth in this link, you can see that this guy crosses the ball like Luca Dean, defends to the same level as Luca Dean with regards to blocks and interceptions, and also progresses the ball via carries, which is Alex Moreno's strength last year, very well as well. So he's definitely somebody who could encapsulate both of the strengths that we have of those two fullbacks, albeit does not have the experience of them, and does have areas of his game that he needs to work on that those guys don't need to work on as much as well. But as a project player, as somebody who can come in and learn under these guys, or could learn in an off season, who's to say that he can't do that either? I could see a reason for signing this guy, and I could see a reason why Aston Villa would be interested. Whether we do or not is all to be written. I spoke way too long about this guy. I didn't expect to speak about him as much. Got a bit passionate about speaking about a couple of areas about him because, as I say, I didn't know a whole pile about him until about 2.5 days ago. So my recency bias definitely kicked into overdrive. And I saw some things that I really like for him. So let's see if something comes from this. And if they do, I do know somebody who is an expert in Belgian football. I'm sure he's going to come on and chat to us all about Archie Brown, the Brummie, playing in Belgium, currently playing with Gent, who's been linked to a host of Premier League teams. Thanks very much, everybody, for your time as always. If you do like this, give it a thumbs up. Please follow the podcast. Please follow us on all our audio platforms. Don't have to listen there, but if you could just download them on the audio platforms, keeps the algorithm going around as well. And thank you so much for your time. As I say, I really, really appreciate it. We will be back again as there's more links to players. But thank you so much for your time again. Stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.